Okay, so I got another comparison video for you today. I'm going to talk about a couple of audio products. We're going to talk about a style of earbud that I'm going to call from now on Clipbuds. Does anybody else call them that? It's the buds like these. Like this is the EarFun. And you've got these Clippies. You've got the EarFun clip. And the Baseus Bowie MC1 Pro. It's also a clip style bud. These are the ones that kind of look like little earrings. Yeah? Well, I have some thoughts about these, so let's talk about them.
So here we have them. We have the EarFun and the Baseus in their little cases. And as you can see, their cases are really similar to some of the other cases we've looked at with the Creative Arvana Ace Mimi and the Soundpeats Capsule 3 Pro Plus or whatever that was called. Their cases are all very similar. They're not, squat and rectangular. They're very rounded. They both have these LEDs here on the front. They both have their branding here from the top. Baseus. Is it Baseus? I've heard people call it Baseus, like Dr. Seuss. I like that, but I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to keep calling it Baseus because bass, but I know it's not spelled that way. So on the bottom, they've got their USB-C ports and their little reset buttons, very similar. The backs are also very similar. They don't have wireless charging on the cases. They're both very rounded. What else can I say about them? They're just very basic cases. There's not a lot of difference in the size. The EarFun is a little bit thicker all around. The Baseus is a little bit more curved, if you can see that. So it will be a little bit thicker in the pocket. But what I do like about the EarFun, because it is less rounded, is it will stand up. You can't really do that with the... Oh, see, that's never... As soon as I get on camera, weird things happen, I swear, every time. I've never been able to get this basic. Maybe it's perfectly flat right here, and the rest of my table is not. I don't know. But anyway, the EarFun does stand up better, because as soon as you start to mess with the Baseus, well, fine, whatever. They both stand up, apparently, but the Baseus, you have to get it just right. You can see I can stand up the EarFun pretty much every time. And the Baseus... Okay, it's proven me to be a liar. But in any case, the EarFun does stand up better. As you can see. So once you get them open, they're also very similar inside. You've got the same kind of openings. They open from the front to the back, and you've got the bodies that are also very similar here. They're both clip buds, so they've got these kind of soft ear hook pieces that are flexible and bendable. I don't know if you can see that, but the EarFun has more of a rubbery texture, whereas the EarFun, it's a little bit more glossy. It feels softer, but it's still flexible. They still open up and give you a pretty good experience in terms of being able to fit. Now, there's also a little bit of difference in the rear pieces. It's hard to hold these. So they're shaped pretty much the same, but you can see that they've got, the charging pins on the bottom. That's pretty much the same. And the thicknesses are very similar. You can see that. But the EarFun has this branding on it. And I do like that, if you're going to insist on having branding on the body, put it in a place where I can't see it, because this is the piece that's going to go in your ear. So when people see you, they're not going to see this giant EarFun. Whereas there's really no noticeable branding on the Baseus at all. You got this shiny piece on the front here. And then you've got going into the band. So the speakers on the pieces that go in your ear are different. You can see this one's round. And you can see this one's kind of more of a rounded off rectangle. You can see that. It's hard to see. But they're very similar. in shape and size. In terms of comfort, they're not super different. They're both pretty comfortable. What I love about both of these, and again, with all this black, it's going to be hard to see, but they both have buttons. There's a button right there, and there's a button right here, and these buttons control everything that you need. You can control play, pause, you can control volume, you can skip ahead and back, and with the EarFun, you can actually also activate the voice assistant with the button, and you can customize the controls a little bit. I'll show the apps a little bit later in this video. So they're very similar, and the comfort is very similar. I've been able to wear both of these for hours at a time without having any discomfort. The one thing I will note on this Baseus Bowie MC1 Pro is that it's really hard to show this, but this interior piece has a rubbery feel to it, which you would think means that it's going to move less in your ear, but I really find that neither one of these moves around a whole lot. Even though this EarFun doesn't have any kind of rubbery coating or texture on it, it doesn't move around. They're pretty similar in terms of how they feel in the ear and how they move around. They're both pretty comfortable. I did do microphone samples with each. I will also have those later in the video so you can hear them. But I will tell you right now that if microphones are important to you, you probably want to pay attention to how the microphone sounds on the Baseus sample. So those are the cases, those are the earpieces. In terms of their specs, they both have Bluetooth 6.0, which was another reason why I wanted to try these out, because Bluetooth 6.0, it's got to be better than 5.4 or 5.3, right? They both have high-res certifications. I've got their boxes here. The Baseus has that high-res certification. So does the EarFun, the high-res certification, because they both have LDAC support. They both have noise-canceling microphones. The EarFun has 2 microphones and the Baseus has 4, which probably is part of the reason why there's a difference in their microphone performance. They both can do multi-point connection if you turn off LDAC. So you can have one or the other. You can have LDAC and have that high-res wireless bit rate coming through, or you can have multi-point and then LDAC has to be turned off. In terms of whether or not you want to use these outside in the rain or for working out, the EarFun has an IP rating of IP55, and the Baseus Bowie MC Pro has IP67. So if that's important to you, if you know you want to wear these outside, you're going to be in the rain, you're going to be sweating a lot, or you're worried about just water, the Baseus has the better IP rating. For dust with the 6 and for water with the 7, so you could actually get the earpieces pretty wet. You don't want to get the cases wet on either one of these. These cases aren't certified, but the earpieces. The IP55 is pretty good if you just want to exercise, you just want to work out and you get caught in light rain, you should be fine, but you will have even better protection with the Baseus, with the Bowie. How about I call them a Bowie, so now I don't even say that weird name anymore. All right, with the Bowie and the Clip, because that's what they're called. So it even says on the box, Baseus Bowie EarFun Clip. So we'll just call them that from now on. So with the Clip, you have, actually they're pretty similar in terms of their battery specs. You get 40 hours for both. That includes with the case. You get 10 hours on the Clip, and you get 9 hours on the Bowie. They both have a fast charge feature where you can get 2 hours of use with 10 minutes of charge. They both offer a low latency game mode, and they both have EQ settings, and they both offer a custom EQ. Now, if EQ customization is important to you, you'll really want to pay attention to the EarFun app when I show that later, because you have a lot more options there, a lot more presets. They both offer multi-band customization, and the EarFun has an extra feature where you can do like an abbreviated audio test to get a EQ curve that's customized to you. So those are the specs. They're very similar in specs. The real major difference, I would say, is in their drivers, their microphones, and their IP rating. I already mentioned that the EarFun has the 2 mics and the Bowie has 4. The driver on the Clip, it's a carbon composite dynamic driver. It's 10.8 millimeters. And there's less information on the Bowie. They call it a 3-magnet dynamic driver. So it's got a PU, 2 polyurethane layers, and a liquid crystal polymer. What does any of that mean? They're both dynamic drivers as far as I'm concerned. They sound pretty similar. We'll get more into sound in a minute, but in terms of the hardware specs, that's really, if hardware specs is really important to you, then the Bowie with the IP67 is pretty important for people who care about water. If you care more about customization, you get more EQ options with the Clip. All right, so now we can talk about sound. So if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you know I have this weird preoccupation with soundstage. Meaning that sometimes with some audio products, soundstage to me feels artificial. It can feel sometimes like there's a forced space pushing the audio away, so you feel more like you're in a room and there's speakers in the room, as opposed to you just have something that's piping the sound into your ears. If you value that sense, and I'm going to call it artificial because it is artificial. I mean, you're not in a room. You are listening to things that are pumping sound into your ears. If you value that sense of space, though, if you value the sense of feeling like you're in a room with speakers that are firing at you, or the music's coming at you and you're in the room with the band and the drums over here and the pianos over here and the guitar, if that's important to you, then you probably will value the Bowie over the Clip, because you do get a better sense of space with the Bowie. I actually had a situation where I was listening to, I wanted to listen to audio, a YouTube video, and I had the Bowie in my ear, and I started playing the audio. My husband was in the room, and it started playing, and it sounded, and I stopped it almost immediately because it sounded like the audio was coming from my tablet and not from the Bowie. And I was like, oh, I need to change my Bluetooth settings. But no, it really was coming from the Bowie, but that sense of space made it feel like there was the video playing at me instead of the video piping into my ears. And that can be a pro, right? If you really do value that feeling of you're in the room and the speakers are pointed at you or coming at you, then you do definitely get more of that. Now, I think for certain types of audio, like movies, for YouTube videos, that can be beneficial. And if you're the kind of person who values, that spatial awareness of where the instruments are in the recording room, then I think also that can be beneficial. But most of the time I find, for music especially, that it just feels like it's pushing the music further away from me, and it's inserting artificial noise into the sound that I just would rather have the clarity and the detail. And I know that there's people out there who's going to hear me say that, and like, if you have the space, it doesn't mean you don't have the clarity. I get that. I get that you can have all of it. You can have good clarity, you can have good detail, you can have good instrument separation, and you can still have that sense of space, like you're in a room and the music's coming out of speakers or the music's coming from the actual instruments. I think, though, for me, when I do have that more intimate sound, it's just easier for me to perceive the clarity and the detail, if that makes any sense. But I think you get used to one or the other over time, and your ears just adapt. So I don't know that it is necessarily a selling point. It's not a selling point necessarily for me, but if it is important to you, just keep that in mind. Much better staging with the Bowie than you do with the Clip. However, I do like the clarity and the detail that I perceive from the Clip, because it is a more in my face or in my ears, if you will, type of sound. So for spoken word, I think they're both very good. But again, if you like that feeling of space, you're going to prefer the Bowie, most definitely. It can sometimes obviously catch you off guard, because it did catch me off guard. And especially with open ear style headphones like these, where you're hearing your room, I think that sense of staging becomes even more pronounced, because you're not closing yourself off like you do with closed back headphones or with in-ear monitors. You are hearing your room at the same time, so you're hearing the sound of the room and you're hearing the sounds coming in your ear, so it can really be more pronounced. So again, if you really like staging, I think open ear, whether it's the hook style or the Clipbuds like these, I think those are really great for people who value staging. When it comes to music, this is to me where the customization really comes in. I was not expecting any kind of personalized customization out of EarFun, because they are known as a budget brand, but they do have that My Sound profile, I think I'm calling it by the right name, where you can do the little test and it will arrange an EQ curve for you based off of how you determine that you hear the different frequencies. And that actually kind of sort of worked. When I was doing it, I was convinced that they've got this all wrong, and there's no way you could just play a frequency, pipe in a frequency of 400, and then tell me to just take the little EQ curve and turn it down until I get to a point where I can't hear it anymore. But it seems to have been effective. It created a curve for me that, at least for the tuning of the clip, seems to work well. The Bowie has fewer EQ presets. There are a ton of EQ presets with the clip. It kind of made me feel like they were trying to compete with Soundcore. If you've ever used an Anchor Soundcore audio product and you've used their app, you know that they usually have a ton of EQ presets, even with the very inexpensive models. And as you go up to the pro level ones, you get even more, and you get the customization there too with the sound personalization. I felt like our EarFun was really trying to compete there. You don't really get anything like that with the Bowie. You do get, I want to say, maybe 6 or 7 EQ presets. I found that the jazz preset was the best for me for most of the time. I did attempt to create a custom EQ profile that was similar to the one that the clip created for me, but it sounded more similar with the jazz preset than it did with my own custom. But you have room for tinkering here with both, because you get a 10-band EQ here and you get an 8-band EQ here, so you can kind of make the sound what you want it to be within the limitations of this style of earbud, because you're never going to really have booming bass here with these little tiny speakers sitting in front of your ears. The style of it is just going to limit you on what you're going to be able to get out of it that way. For music, like I said, with the different settings, I felt like my experience with the clip was better, but I'm not at all saying that the experience with the Bowie was bad. I liked listening to both of them. I just felt that, especially for me, because I'm a musician and I spend a lot of time learning music so that I can teach music and I can play music, and just having that sound right in my head, in my ears, where I can hear, okay, what's the bass line? What is the piano doing? Okay, what are the drums doing? What I can hear all of that. And it's not that I can't hear it here. It's just that sense of it's pushed further away from me just makes it just a little, so I have to work just a little bit harder, which I'm going to say makes me want to turn it up a little bit more. And the volume levels on these, I do believe, if I remember correctly, that the clip just works a little bit louder, and it may be because of that sense of space that the Bowie is putting into the sound. But I think both of them are great. I get a little bit more bass from the clip, but you have the EQ. You can kind of mess around with that and get a little bit more of a bassy sound as you want. Connectivity. Bluetooth 6.0 should be great, right? Well, I think until we get more phones and tablets and computers that have Bluetooth 6.0, we're really not going to get the big benefit here. You're limited, I think, pretty much by whatever Bluetooth is in, whatever you connect this to. Connectivity wasn't anything special, but I will say that the clip worked better for me. I've said this before, I don't have a big house. I work out of a corner of my living room. If I walk 2 rooms away into my kitchen, I lose the Bowie. If I walk 2 rooms away into my bathroom, I lose the Bowie. But with the clip, I can go downstairs, I can go outside, close my front door, check my mail. It's almost as good as these super cheap YYK S19s I talked about in a previous video. These are super cheap and they're nowhere near as good in terms of sound, but the connectivity on these was fabulous to the point where it's like I would reach for these just because I knew if I was going to be doing chores, I could listen to these and they wouldn't block out. They wouldn't drop out. The clip are almost as good as that. Not quite as good, because when I do go to my mailbox, it starts to drop out right there, but I can grab my mail and come back in and not lose the connection and have to reconnect when I come back inside. So connectivity to me with the clip was better. The Bowie was acceptable. It's pretty much like everything else I've ever used where there's always dropouts in my house. So I would call this normal, average. I call this above average. What else can I say about them? I think in terms of wrapping up, I like both of these a lot because of the difference in the customization features and the difference in microphone quality, which you'll hear when you listen to the samples. You're really going to have to figure out, what do you prioritize most? Do you want the more customization? Do you want more of that soundstage feel, more of that space and feeling like you're in a room? Do you value microphone performance more? Because for the most part, that's really what's going to set these two apart. You get more staging here, you get better microphone performance here, and you get more customization here. But for most other features in the IP rating, you get a better IP rating here. For most other features, they're extraordinarily similar. I think you can make them sound very similar. I will say that in the short period of time I've had these, I've already gotten 2 firmware updates for the clip. I haven't gotten any firmware updates for the Bowie. I don't know how that bodes for the future. I don't know if that just means there've been more issues with the clip and they've had to fix them. I haven't had any problems. They've been fine for me. But I do want to mention that, it is obvious to me in the short time I've had them that EarFun is actually supporting these. And again, it may just be that the Bowie, they haven't had anything to update. The features on both of these are super similar. So I think for you, it comes down to, what do you value more? But there you have it, the EarFun clip and the Baseus Bowie MC1 Pro, because you just can't have one-word names. Thank you, EarFun, for one-word name. That's what I got. Listen to the samples. Look at the apps. See which one makes sense for you. Thanks for watching. This is an audio recording using the EarFun clip. This is a clip-on style earbud. I am in a quiet room, so there shouldn't be any real noise to cancel, but I'm going to introduce some noise because this claims to have AI noise cancellation. I'm going to hold a small portable air filter up to my face. It's off right now. I'm going to turn it on. That's on low. That was very quiet. That's on medium. And now that's on loud. I am talking while it's on. And now it's off. So to cancel the noise. Again, this was the EarFun clip. This is an audio test recording with the Baseus Bowie MC1 Pro. I am in a quiet room, and this claims to have AI noise cancellation, so I'm going to introduce some noise by turning on a portable air filter. It's off right now. Now it's on low. Now it's on medium, and I'm holding it up to my face. And now it's on the loudest setting. Is it canceling the noise? Now it's back off. Again, this was the Baseus Bowie MC1 Pro. This is the EarFun app, and as you can see, my EarFun clip is connected. I'm going to go ahead and select it. At the top, you can see the battery levels on the buds and on the case. We have game mode, which should reduce latency. There's a theater mode, a privacy mode, which will let you lower the volume so people around you can't hear you. You've got the ability to basically turn it off by disabling controls. You can customize the controls. When you get it, the left button, automatically controls volume, pause, play, previous track, voice assistant, and the right one, same thing, opposite volume, pause, play, next track, voice assistant. So you can change these a little bit. You can come in here and select different things that you want to change. So you have some ability to customize the controls. You can connect to 2 devices at once, as long as you have LDAC turned off. If you have LDAC turned on, then you can only connect to 1 device at a time. And you can change the LDAC setting so that it's a lower bit rate so that you have a better, more stable connection. You can limit the volume if you want to make sure that you don't blast yourself. You've got a left and a right balance, which is handy if you're like me and you have an imbalance. You can control the timing for when it shuts down. I had mine set at an hour. These are the options that you have. You can also set it so that it never shuts off automatically, which is good if you just want to wear them all day and you don't want them to shut off. You can find the headphones by making them beep. You can play a little sound. And you can update the firmware in here. And I have updated the firmware twice in the less than a week that I've had these. So they are updating these. When you go into the equalizer settings, you've got these presets that come built in. Quite a few. Quite a few. But you also have the ability to customize and create your own equalizer. Now what you're seeing here is the equalizer that was created for me when I went into my sound profile. And I'm not going to go do it again, but what it does is it plays a sound at each of these frequencies. Each one of these frequencies, it'll play a sound. And basically you turn down from the top, you turn it down until you can't hear it anymore. And it sets the levels of each of these frequencies at whatever level you set it at. So whatever level you said, okay, I can't hear that anymore, it basically set the custom equalizer at those levels. Now that's kind of different. I haven't seen anything like that in other products that I've used, but this is what it created for me, and it kind of works. I have left it this way. It seems to be fine in terms of listening to audio, podcasts, videos, music. This seems to work for me. So you have a lot of flexibility here with EarFun in terms of tailoring the sound. So that's the EarFun. What do you think? Baseus, I'm going to call it Baseus app. And we've got the Bowie MC1 Pro connected. You can see the battery status on the left and the right here. If I select it, it takes you in, and now you can see the battery level in the case here in the middle. It's at 80%. Here, this app is a little bit more bare than the EarFun app. You've got the EQ. You have a few options here: classic, bass, hi-fi, live, jazz, treble, acoustic, rock. You can come in and do your own arrangement of the EQ, and you can create presets. I've created a preset here for me that I tried to match up a little bit with what I got out of my sound profile in the EarFun, and this is what I have it set to. But you can come in here and customize it and change it to whatever you want it to be with that 8-band equalizer. With these, just as with the EarFun, if you want to be connected to two devices, then you have to turn LDAC off. You can't have LDAC on and have dual device connection at the same time. You've got to be able to turn one or the other on. And I have LDAC on, so I don't have dual device connected. I do have bass boost turned on. I do not have the low latency mode turned on, but if you want to play games, or if the synchronization of lips and video is bothering you, you can come in and turn on the low latency mode. You can change the settings on the controls. You can have a couple of options. There's not usually very many options here as there are with the EarFun, but you can customize them a little bit. You get more options with the 3 taps than you do with some of the others. So you have options in here. You can customize them a little bit, but as it stands, you can control volume and play, pause, and track advance and back, and those I think are the features that most people are looking for. And as with the EarFun, you have buttons, so it's not hard to control them. In the settings, you just have the ability to see what version you're on. If there was an update, you would learn about it here. I haven't had any updates since I've had them. And this is basically all you really do. You do have a find the headphones if you want to play a voice or a sound to find them. And as you can see, I'm not logged in. I didn't create an account, so I can't do that. But I've been able to do everything else in the app that I wanted to do without logging in and creating an account. So that is the Bowie MC1 Pro in the Baseus app. What do you think?